told him he couldn't stop me from going out in a tight, revealing dress. He left me on the spot. Hi, Reddit. This story I'm about to tell you is a very difficult one. It is too painful to even type. I can't expose my identity for fear of being stalked and attacked physically. So let's call my name Clara. I don't even know where to start. Okay. Well, here goes nothing. It's hard to admit this about myself, but I've always craved intimacy, physical connection, sex, attention, validations. A little more than most people. It's like a constant hunger, this need to feel desired, to feel wanted. For most of my life, I convinced myself it wasn't a problem, that it was just a part of who I was. But now, looking back, I can see how that need consumed me, how it drove me to make choices that hurt the people I loved most. And now, I'm sitting here alone, wondering how I let it get so out of control. When Aaron and I first got together, I thought I had everything I'd ever wanted. He was the kind of man who made you feel safe, who grounded you when everything else in the world felt chaotic. He wasn't flashy or overly romantic, but he was steady, dependable. He was the kind of person who showed his love in small, meaningful ways, bringing me coffee in the morning, remembering the little things I said, making sure I felt taken care of. I told myself that was enough, that his quiet love would be enough to fill the void inside me. And for a while it was. When we got married, I poured all my energy into building a life with him. I thought I could leave behind that part of myself that always craved more, that part that wanted to feel the thrill of being pursued, the rush of knowing I could have someone wrapped around my finger. I thought being with Aaron would fix me, that his love would be enough to quiet the restless voice in my head. But it didn't. Over time, that hunger came back. At first, it was subtle, just little moments when I'd catch myself wanting more than what Aaron could give me. It wasn't his fault. He was doing everything right, but it wasn't enough. Our life together became routine, predictable, safe, and while that stability should have been comforting, it felt stifling. I started to miss the excitement, the spark I used to feel when someone new showed interest in me. I missed the way it made me feel powerful, like I had this ability to control how someone saw me, how they wanted me. It wasn't that Aaron didn't love me, he did. So much that it breaks my heart now to think about how I took it for granted. But his love was quiet, steady. It didn't have the fire or the intensity I craved. I wanted to feel desired in a way that consumed me, that made me feel alive. And instead of working on those feelings with Aaron, instead of talking to him about what I was missing, I started looking for that validation elsewhere. At first, it was just harmless attention. I'd dress a little nicer for work, linger a little longer in conversations with male coworkers, bask in the compliments and the way they'd look at me. It was all so innocent, or at least that's what I told myself. But it didn't take long for those interactions to escalate. It wasn't enough to be noticed. I wanted more. I wanted to feel that rush, that power that came from knowing someone wanted me. And when that attention started turning into flirtation, I didn't stop it. I let it happen because it made me feel good, because it made me feel alive in a way I hadn't in years. I told myself it didn't mean anything. It was just fun, just a way to remind myself that I was still attractive, still desirable. But the more I indulged in those moments, the more I started to rely on them. It was like a drug, this constant need for attention, for validation, for intimacy. And the more I got, the more I wanted. It was never enough. Looking back now, I can see how selfish I was. Aaron didn't deserve the way I pulled away from him, the way I started prioritizing the attention of other men over the love he was giving me. He didn't deserve to be treated like he wasn't enough, when the truth was, he was more than enough. I was the one who wasn't enough, who wasn't satisfied, who couldn't see what I had right in front of me. But at the time, I didn't see it that way. I told myself that Aaron was the problem, that he was the one who wasn't doing enough to make me feel loved. I started resenting him for the stability he brought to our life, for the way he was always so steady and predictable. I wanted passion, excitement, chaos. I wanted to feel like I was in control, like I was the one who had the power. And so I kept pushing him away, kept seeking that feeling from anyone who would give it to me. I never thought it would go as far as it did. I never thought I'd cross the lines I crossed or hurt Aaron the way I did. But once I started down that path, It was like I couldn't stop. Each little choice felt harmless in the moment, but they added up, building into something I couldn't take back. And now, looking at the wreckage of my life, I can't believe how blind I was to the damage I was causing. Aaron didn't deserve what I did to him. He was a good man, a better man than I ever gave him credit for. And now that he's gone, I can see just how much I lost because of my own selfishness. I thought I was chasing something that would make me feel whole, but all I found was emptiness. And the worst part is I have no one to blame but myself. This is just the beginning of my story, but it's already more than I ever wanted to admit. Writing it down feels like ripping open a wound that hasn't even begun to heal, but maybe by sharing it, I can make sense of what happened, or at least help someone else avoid making the same mistakes. Because trust me, the choices I made weren't worth it. Not even close. When Aaron and I first got together, I felt like I had hit the jackpot. He was everything I thought I wanted in a partner. He was kind, hardworking, attentive, and so deeply in love with me that it felt almost overwhelming. He had this way of making me feel safe, like no matter what happened, he would always be there. In those early days, we couldn't get enough of each other. The passion between us was electric, and I felt like I'd found someone who truly saw me for who I was. We spent hours talking about our dreams, our future, and what we wanted our life together to look like. At the time, it felt like we were building something unshakable, but as the years went on, life started to get in the way. Aaron worked long hours, often coming home late, exhausted from the day. He was always trying to get ahead, to make sure we were financially secure, and while I appreciated his dedication, I couldn't help but feel neglected. Our conversations became more about bills and schedules than about us. The intimacy we once shared, the stolen glances, the spontaneous touches, the passion that used to set my heart racing started to fade. We fell into a routine, and while it was comfortable, it wasn't exciting. I told myself that this was normal, that every marriage went through phases like this, but deep down, I missed the way things used to be. I tried to push those feelings aside to life together. Aaron was a good man after all. He cared about me, worked hard to provide for us, and never gave me any reason to doubt his love. But the more I tried to ignore the growing distance between us, the more restless I became. I started to crave the attention I felt I wasn't getting at home. I wanted to feel desired again, to feel like I was more than just a wife or a partner managing a household. I wanted to feel alive. It started innocently enough, or at least that's what I told myself at the time. I began noticing the way men looked at me, the way their eyes lingered a little too long when I walked into a room. At first, it was just a confidence boost, something that made me feel good about myself. I started dressing a little differently, putting more effort into my appearance, and I loved the way it made me feel when someone paid me a compliment or looked at me like I was irresistible. I told myself it was harmless, that it didn't mean anything, but the truth was I was feeding a part of myself that had been starving for years. The first time I crossed the line was at a friend's party. I had been feeling particularly frustrated with Aaron that week. He'd been working late every night, and we barely spoke except to discuss mundane things like groceries and bills. At the party, I struck up a conversation with a guy I'd never met before, and the way he looked at me made my heart race. He was charming, confident, and he made me feel like I was the only woman in the room. When he touched my arm during the conversation, I didn't pull away. When he leaned in closer, I let him. I took a bold move and swiped my hand on his genitals to reveal an amazing boner. And when he suggested we find somewhere more private, I didn't say no. That night, I let myself get swept up in the moment. It was exhilarating in a way I hadn't felt in years. The way he touched me, the way he made me feel wanted, it was intoxicating. For those few hours, I forgot about everything else. This guy took me on the highway to Pound Town. I wasn't thinking about Aaron or our marriage or the consequences of what I was doing. All I cared about was the way it made me feel, powerful, desirable, alive. When it was over, I told myself it was a one-time thing, a mistake I wouldn't repeat. But deep down, I knew that wasn't true. One affair turned into 2, and then 3. Each time I told myself it didn't mean anything, that it was just a way to fill the void I felt inside. I convinced myself that as long as Aaron didn't find out, it wasn't really hurting anyone. but the more I did it, the more I craved it. It became like an addiction. I started seeking out opportunities, finding excuses to be in situations where I knew I could get that attention, that rush. Each affair made me feel more desirable, more in control, like I had this power over the men I was with. But at the same time, it left me feeling hollow, like I was chasing something I could never quite catch. Ethan, my boss, was the tipping point. He was older, confident, and charismatic in a way that made it impossible not to notice him. He had a reputation for being a little too friendly with the women in the office, but I never thought I'd be one of them. At first, it was just small things, compliments on my work, casual touches on my shoulder when he walked by, lingering eye contact during meetings. I told myself it was harmless, that he was just being nice. But deep down, I knew there was more to it. The first time he crossed the line was at a work event. We had all gone out for drinks after a long day, and Ethan offered to buy me a drink. As the night went on, he became more bold, leaning in closer, brushing his hand against mine, finding excuses to touch me. I didn't stop him. I liked the way it felt, the way he made me feel like I was the center of his attention. By the end of the night, he had his hand on my thigh, and I didn't pull away. I was already so wet. When he suggested we grab a cab together, I didn't hesitate. When he pulled up at a hotel and held his hand out for me as an invitation to sin, I still didn't hesitate. When the receptionist recognized him quickly and just gave him a room key without checking us in, I should have turned around, knowing I clearly was not the only one he brought there, but I didn't. I went with him into the room, my heels tapping the floor of the hotel, until we got to the door of the room. I was even the first one to start pulling off my dress without even speaking. And when he pulled off his trousers and revealed his giant erection, I wasn't intimidated, but rather excited. We slept together, and then he ordered me a cab to my place. What started that night turned into a full-blown affair. We began meeting after work, sneaking off to hotels or empty conference rooms. He was charming, attentive, and he made me feel wanted in a way I hadn't felt in years. I knew it was wrong. I knew I was betraying Aaron in the worst possible way, but I couldn't stop myself. The way Ethan looked at me, the way he touched me, it made me feel powerful, like I was in control of something for the first time in a long time. I started dressing differently at work, choosing outfits I knew would catch his eye. I craved the attention, the way he made me feel like I was the most important person in the room. But as the affair continued, I started to notice cracks in the illusion. Ethan wasn't as attentive as I thought. His compliments started to feel rehearsed, his touches less meaningful. I began to realize that I wasn't special to him. I was just another conquest, another distraction. And yet I couldn't stop. I kept going back to him, kept chasing that feeling, even though it was becoming clear that it was never going to fill the void I felt inside. Looking back now, I can see how far I had fallen. Each affair, each moment of intimacy, gave me a temporary high, but it never lasted. I kept chasing something I couldn't define, something that left me feeling emptier with each passing day. I told myself I was in control, that I was the one calling the shots, but the truth was I was lost. I was destroying the one thing in my life that truly mattered, my marriage, for something that was never real. Aaron didn't deserve what I did to him. He was a good man, and I took him for granted. I let my insecurities and my need for validation drive me to make choices that hurt him in ways I can't even begin to imagine. And now, sitting here in the wreckage of my life, I can't help but wonder if I'll ever find a way to make peace with what I've done. The night of the company dinner is seared into my memory as the moment I unknowingly set everything in motion, the moment I lost the person who mattered most to me. I've replayed that evening in my head so many times, dissecting every choice, every word, every look. At the time, I didn't see it for what it was. I thought I was in control, that I was holding all the cards. But now I see it was the beginning of the end. Ethan had organized the dinner as a celebration of the quarter's success, and I knew it was an opportunity to shine. I spent hours getting ready, choosing a dress that was tighter and more revealing than anything I'd ever worn around Aaron before. I told myself it was just for me, that I wanted to feel confident and beautiful, but deep down, I knew it was about Ethan. I wanted him to notice me, to see me as someone desirable and bold. I wanted to dazzle him, to feel that intoxicating rush of power when his eyes lingered on me. Aaron saw the dress as I was getting ready. He didn't say much at first, just gave me a look that I now recognize as hurt and disappointment. I remember the way he hesitated, as though he didn't want to start a fight but couldn't hold back his discomfort. When he finally spoke, he told me that he didn't feel right about me going out in something so revealing. He said it wasn't about the dress itself, but about how it made him feel, like I was seeking attention from someone who wasn't him. At the time, I dismissed his words as insecurity, an attempt to control me, and I lashed out. I told him he couldn't stop me. I told him he didn't appreciate me, that I deserved to feel good about myself, and if he couldn't see that, other men would. The words came out before I could think them through, but even as they hung in the air, I didn't regret them. I felt powerful in that moment, defiant. I thought I was standing up for myself, but I was really tearing him down. The look on his face, the way his shoulders dropped, the way his eyes lost their light, should have stopped me in my tracks. But I was too caught up in my own need to feel validated to notice what I was doing to him. Aaron didn't yell. He didn't argue. He just stood there, silent, as though something inside him had broken. Then, without another word, he turned and walked out of the room. I thought he was overreacting, that he'd cool off and come back like he always did after our fights. But this time was different. This time he didn't come back. When I returned home from dinner, the house was quiet and Aaron was gone. His clothes were missing from the closet, his phone charger gone from the nightstand. It hit me then that he wasn't just blowing off steam, he had actually left. I felt a pang of panic, but I pushed it down, telling myself it was temporary. He just needed time to cool off. But as the days turned into weeks and my calls went unanswered, I started to realize that I had underestimated him. Aaron wasn't coming back. I spent those weeks in limbo, swinging between panic and denial. I tried calling him, texting him, leaving voicemails apologizing for what I'd said and begging him to come back. But every message went unanswered. He blocked me on most platforms, leaving me completely cut off. It was like I didn't even exist to him anymore. For the first time, I realized how much I had taken his patience for granted. I had always assumed that no matter what I said or did, Aaron would forgive me. But this time, I had pushed him too far. My friends started asking questions, wanting to know why Aaron wasn't around. I made up excuses, saying he was staying with a friend for work, or that we were taking some time apart to figure things out. I couldn't bring myself to admit the truth, even to myself. Deep down, I knew I had destroyed our marriage, but I wasn't ready to face it yet. I clung to the hope that if I could just talk to him, I could fix things. Eventually, I managed to get a message through to him. I don't know why he responded this time, but he agreed to meet me and talk. I was desperate for that chance, clinging to the possibility that I could convince him to come home. I told him I wanted to fix things, that I would change, that I would do whatever it took to make things right. He didn't make any promises, but the fact that he agreed to meet gave me hope. For the first time in weeks, I felt like there was a chance to salvage what we had. But that hope was short-lived. On the day we were supposed to meet, Aaron drove by the house on his way to pick me up. He later told me that he had planned to take me to dinner, to talk things through and see if there was anything left worth saving. But as he drove past, he saw Ethan's car parked in the driveway. He stayed long enough to see me step out of the car, Ethan following close behind. I didn't know he was there, watching from a distance, as Ethan leaned in close. From where Aaron was sitting, it must have looked like we were kissing. Maybe we were. I honestly don't remember. All I know is that in that moment, whatever shred of hope Aaron had left was gone. As if that wasn't enough, a neighbor stopped Aaron as he was leaving the neighborhood. They mentioned, almost casually, that they had seen me bringing different men home while he was gone. I can only imagine what he must have felt in that moment, the betrayal, the humiliation, the heartbreak. I didn't know about the neighbor's comment until much later, but when Aaron blocked me on every platform and started the process of filing for divorce, I knew there was no coming back. He was done, and I couldn't blame him. In the weeks that followed, I was forced to confront the wreckage of my actions. I had always told myself that my need for validation and attention wasn't a problem, that it was just a harmless quirk of my personality. But now, sitting in the ruins of my marriage, I couldn't deny the truth. My addiction to validation had blinded I had been so focused on chasing fleeting thrills and temporary power that I didn't see the cracks I was creating in the foundation of my life. Aaron wasn't perfect, but he was steady. He was kind. He loved me in a way that was quiet but unwavering. And I destroyed that love because I couldn't see past my own insecurities. I convinced myself that he didn't appreciate me, but the truth was, I didn't appreciate him. I underestimated his strength, thinking he would always forgive me, always come back. But his decision to leave showed me how much self-respect he had, and how little I had for myself. I've spent so much time thinking about the choices I made, about why I let myself go down this path. The affairs, the lies, the desperate need to feel powerful, they were all symptoms of a deeper problem. I was looking for something outside of myself to fill a void that only I could fix. I thought I was in control, but I was really spiraling out of it, destroying everything good in my life in the process. I honestly wish there was some way to fix this. If there was, I would desperately be clinging to it right now. Or is there? Do you guys maybe know of one? Update. Hello, Reddit. It's been 3 months, 1 week, and 3 days since Aaron filed for divorce, and I feel like I'm drowning. I knew it was coming. I knew he wasn't going to forgive me after everything I did. But seeing the papers made it real in a way I wasn't prepared for. The legal jargon, the finality of his signature at the bottom, the way it spelled out the end of everything we had built together, it hit me like a ton of bricks. I sat at the dining table with the papers in front of me, unable to move, unable to process what I was looking at. This wasn't just a rough patch or a temporary separation. This was the end. I've tried to keep myself busy, to avoid sitting with the weight of my thoughts, but it's impossible. Everywhere I look, there's a reminder of Aaron. The empty closet where his clothes used to hang, the vacant side of the bed that feels colder than I ever thought possible, the quiet of the house that used to feel like home, but now feels suffocating. It's like the walls are closing in on me, and I can't escape the reality of what I've done. I found out through mutual friends that Aaron is staying with his brother. They've always been close, so it makes sense, but hearing about it felt like another punch to the gut. His brother has a family, a warm and supportive home, and I can't help but picture Aaron sitting at their dinner table, surrounded by people who love him, people who are probably telling him he's better off without me. And the worst part is, they're right. But the real blow came when I found out that Aaron has started seeing someone new. Apparently, there's a woman at his gym who has been supportive during his breakdown moments. I don't know much about her, just that she's kind, fit, and has been a shoulder for him to lean on. I can't even be mad about it. I don't have the right to be angry or jealous, but I am. The thought of him moving on so quickly, of him smiling at someone else the way he used to smile at me, is unbearable. It's not just the jealousy that hurts, it's the realization that he's happier without me. I always told myself that Aaron needed me, that I was the one holding everything together. But now, seeing him thrive, seeing him rebuild his life without me, has forced me to confront the truth. I wasn't his strength, I was his weakness. I was the one pulling him down, making him feel small, taking him for granted while he gave me everything he had. And now that I'm out of the picture, he's free to be the person he was always meant to be, and I'm left here, stuck in the mess I made, watching from a distance as he builds a life without me. I haven't been able to stop thinking about the woman from the gym. I don't know if they're serious or if it's just a rebound, but the idea of someone else filling the space I used to occupy is devastating. She's probably everything I'm not: supportive, kind, understanding. She's probably making him feel like the man I never made him feel like. And I hate that I'm jealous. I hate that I feel this way when I know I brought it on myself, but I can't help it. The thought of him moving on, of him finding happiness with someone else, feels like the final nail in the coffin of our marriage. Work has been unbearable too. Ethan has been avoiding me entirely, and the tension in the office is palpable. People know, or at least they suspect, and the whispers and sideways glances have become impossible to ignore. I feel like I'm walking through a minefield, waiting for the next explosion, the next reminder of how far I've fallen. I thought I could keep my personal life separate from my professional one, but that was just another lie I told myself. Everything is connected, and the choices I made have tainted every part of my life. I've tried reaching out to Aaron a few times since the divorce papers arrived, but he hasn't responded. He never responds. He just ignored my whole existence, and I don't blame him. After everything I've done, I don't deserve his forgiveness, and I don't expect him to give it. But that doesn't stop me from hoping, from wishing that somehow he'll change his mind. Every time my phone buzzes, I feel a flicker of hope, only to have it extinguished when I see it's not him. It's like I'm punishing myself, clinging to a shred of hope that I know deep down isn't there. The hardest part of all of this is the isolation. My friends have started pulling away too. The ones who used to call me every day, who used to invite me out and include me in their lives, have stopped reaching out. I don't blame them. They probably don't know what to say, and honestly, I don't either. How do you explain to someone that you ruined your marriage because you couldn't see what you had right in front of you? How do you make them understand something you barely understand yourself? I've spent so much time thinking about the choices I made, about the woman I became. I thought I was strong, confident, in control. I thought I was chasing something that would make me feel alive, that would fill the void I felt inside. But all I found was emptiness. I let my insecurities and my need for validation drive me to destroy the one thing in my life that truly mattered. And now I'm paying the price. Aaron is happier without me, and I have to live with that. I have to live with the knowledge that I pushed away the best thing in my life because I couldn't see past my own selfishness. I don't know if I'll ever forgive myself for what I did to him, for what I did to us. But I know one thing for sure. I'll never find another Aaron. Men like him don't come around twice in a lifetime, and I threw him away for nothing. To anyone reading this, please don't make the same mistakes I did. Don't let your insecurities and your need for attention blind you to the love you already have. Don't take for granted the person who stands by you, who loves you even when you don't deserve it. Because once they're gone, you'll realize too late how much they meant to you, and the regret will be unbearable. Trust me, it's not worth it. Update. Hello, everyone. Somehow things have gotten even worse. I didn't think that was possible, but every time I think I've hit rock bottom, life has a way of proving me wrong. I've had to face the reality of everything I destroyed, not just in my marriage, but in every other part of my life. I thought I had control over everything, that I was the one calling the shots, but now it's painfully clear that I was never in control at all. And now I'm left with nothing but regret and emptiness, and to be honest, this may be my last post here. Ethan, the man I risked everything for, has completely distanced himself from me. At first, I thought he was just giving me space after everything that happened with Aaron, but it's become obvious that he's cutting me out of his life. It's humiliating, knowing that the man I allowed to come between me and my husband wants nothing to do with me now. I can't help but feel used, discarded like I was nothing more than a temporary distraction for him. Looking back, I realized that I meant nothing to Ethan. I was a convenience, someone he could flirt with, someone who stroked his ego. I told myself that we had a connection, that there was something special about the way he looked at me, the way he made me feel. But it was all a lie. I let myself believe that he cared about me, that he valued me in some way. But now I see that he didn't. He was just using me, and when things got messy, he didn't hesitate to walk away. I thought I had power in that relationship, but I didn't. I was just another mistake, another name on his list, and now I have to live with that. Work has become unbearable. People know, or at least they suspect, and the whispers have only gotten louder since Ethan left. My colleagues treat me differently now, some with pity, others with judgment. I see it in the way they avoid me in meetings, the way their conversations die when I walk into the room. I used to feel confident at work, like I belonged there, but now I feel like an outsider. Every day is a reminder of the choices I made and the consequences I can't escape. And then there's the thought of the man I lost, and how he has a woman in his life who is not me. I can't stop thinking about what their life together must be like. I imagine them laughing, sharing quiet moments, building a future that I destroyed. I wonder if he tells her the same jokes he used to tell me, if he looks at her the way he used to look at me. It's unbearable, knowing that he's happier without me, that he's thriving while I'm left to pick up the pieces of the life I shattered. I never thought I'd be the kind of person who was jealous of someone else's happiness, but here I am, consumed by it. I've spent so much time reflecting on everything that's happened, trying to understand how I let it get this far. My choices weren't just mistakes. They were calculated, selfish decisions rooted in my own insecurities and need for validation. I thought I was chasing something that would make me feel alive, something that would fill the emptiness I felt inside, but all I found was more emptiness. I destroyed the one stable, loving thing in my life for fleeting thrills and a false sense of power, and now I have nothing to show for it. Aaron was the best thing that ever happened to me, and I didn't see it until it was too late. He loved me in a way that was quiet and steady, but I took that for granted. I mistook his patience for weakness, his calmness for complacency. I thought he would always forgive me, always stay, no matter how far I pushed him. But his decision to leave showed me just how strong he really is. He had the self-respect to walk away from someone who didn't value him, and I can't blame him for that. If anything, I admire him for it. There's a part of me that wishes I could reach out to him, to apologize again, to tell him how much I regret what I did. But I know it wouldn't make a difference. He's moved on, and he deserves to be happy without me dragging him down. The best thing I can do for him now is to stay out of his life and let him have the peace he deserves. To anyone reading this, again, I'm warning. Don't make the same mistakes that I made, and it's really draining living as me now, honestly, and I wouldn't even wish an enemy lived like that. I don't know what the future holds for me, but I know one thing: I'll never find another Aaron. Men like him don't come around twice in a lifetime, and I'll spend the rest of my life living with the knowledge that I threw him away for nothing. If I could go back and undo it all, I would. But life doesn't give you do-overs, and now I have to live with the consequences of my choices. Hopefully, I can help someone else avoid making the same mistakes. Because trust me, it's not worth it. It never is.